Hello, everybody, and thank you for stopping by. My allergies are kind of kicking up today, which caused me to kind of rasp and breathe funny, but I have that problem. They're not super bad, but they're still bad. I would appreciate if you would listen to the whole video today and don't cut off because you think I'm going into a certain direction, because I'm really not. And I want to thank all of you for stopping by. But I want to talk to you about sin, the big sin word. Now, I'm not a person that likes to get in. There's two topics I really don't like to discuss. One is religion, and the other is politics. But this sin thing, I had to talk about this one, okay? We all know, we've all heard, God don't like certain things, and certain things are a sin. And we have some that'll scream out there that there is no such thing as sin, or even God for that matter. Okay, well, I ran across something yesterday that I found quite comical. Now, you got to remember, I'm an old woman, and I'm not cool and up to date on everything and what's going on and what's being done in the government in different places. I'm too busy trying to live life and take care of my family to think or know everything that's going on. But yesterday, I got a new bit of information I didn't know about. Our government says we sin. And I'm like, huh? What do you mean? It caught my attention because it was on the news, and they were talking about sin tax. And I said to myself, what the heck? A sin tax? I didn't know there was such a thing. Now, I knew that there was some things that were taxed that, maybe other things weren't. But I didn't know that it was a tax due to our sin. Well, when I researched it, they try to say it's not exactly that you're sinning, but that you're consuming things that they think is bad for you. Well, then why are they calling it sin? I mean, come on, let's go on here, guys. If I was to get in a conversation with somebody, per se, who did not believe in God, and I tried to say, well, what you're doing is a sin, they'd come unglued on me. But they don't have a problem with the government calling something that they eat or drink or consume a sin. And being taxed for it too. Now that, I think, is a good one. Forget the forgiveness of your sins. Nobody, boy, you're going to pay for them in a sin tax. Now, I have to admit, I really thought that was comical. But I'll tell you what I think is even worse. That isn't so comical. Okay? They say they put that tax on certain products, certain things like e-cigs, cigarettes. You're an adult. If you want to smoke yourself to death, that's your business. That's how I look at it. And they put it on alcohol and sugars and sugary drinks and candies and fast foods and some processed foods like corn dogs and pizzas. There's a sin tax. Now, it varies from state to state, so don't, come unglued and start screaming, well, we don't have God in our state, but other states do. Well, they now want to put a sin tax because you're really sinning if you eat beef, because it's just not good for you. We've got the government now telling us what's good for us to eat and what's not good for us to eat. Well, some would say, well, you know what? That's not a bad idea. We need someone looking out over our shoulder to make sure that we understand, the things that are good and things that are not good for us to eat. Although, when they first created, the Cheetos, the Fritos, and the potato chips, which are taxed, sin tax, nobody put a warning label on them and said this stuff is junk and will make you obese and clog your arteries. Oh no, they didn't bother to do that. Did they even do any studies on it to begin with? Oh no. They went ahead and let you get addicted to the nonsense and feed it to your children thinking, well, it must be okay. After all, the government lets it on the shelves, because most of us do trust our government. Believe me, we do. And we think they wouldn't dare put anything on a shelf that would kill us all, now would they? Well, they sure didn't give us any warnings, did they? There was no little tags on anything saying this product leads to obesity if you consume too much, and obesity leads to heart disease and early death. Now, do they? No, they didn't bother to do that. Not at all. But they did decide they would sin tax you for doing it, right? Well, some might say, well, they put a tax on it. That was their way of trying to discourage you from eating it because they really do care. Well, I don't think so. I'm not buying that one. I don't believe it. Because let me explain to you why I don't believe it. If it's that bad for you, and our government really doesn't want us to eat it because they care about our health so much. Now, you got to understand the beef tax really isn't, they say it's really not good for us, but they're more worried about the climate actually than they are about us, and they say that cows are destroying the climate. And so, well, if they put a sin tax on us, they can go with, well, it's not really that good for you, and people will cut back. People will cut back because they won't be able to afford the meat, okay? Plain and simple. But back to my thought. They care so much about our health and our well-being. They don't want us eating sugar and drinking sugary drinks and eating candies and eating processed fast food, and corn dogs that you buy in the freezer section at the stores, or the frozen pizzas, the junk food they call it, the Cheetos, Fritos, and potato chips. They really care. They care a lot. That's why they put sin taxes on them. And guess what, though? They allow it to be bought on food stamps. The poorest of the poorest are allowed to buy it. Now, you would think if they cared that much, they might not be able to stop us because, see, those who can afford to buy it are going to buy it, right? I mean, that's just common sense. And so what they say is, well, we really can't stop the common man who's got the money to buy it, but we can tax the heck out of that sucker, and then maybe he'll wake up and see that this isn't good for him and he needs to cut back because he's getting as fat as a submarine, sitting on his couch, eating Cheetos and Fritos and potato chips. But wait a minute. They didn't think that would happen to the poor children that were on food stamps? They could have easily disallowed it. There was a time you couldn't buy any of those things on food stamps. But then they said, well, we can't have little Johnny not being able to buy frozen pizzas and enjoy pizza when other people that have money can buy it. So they didn't care if little Johnny died from obesity, clogged arteries, and heart disease at an early age. Eating pizzas and frozen hamburgers and frozen corn dogs and, spaghetti in a can, and potato chips and Cheetos and all those goody little things and candy and sugary drinks that they can get on food stamps. Do they really care? Stop and think. Is that what their tax is really all about? Is because they care so much for us? Because it's so bad for our health. And so they put a sin tax on it, so that we would be discouraged from buying this. But then they let the poorest of the poorest buy it all. Maybe early age death is their motive, do you think? Because I don't think it's done out of love. Because when you really care about something and you know that crap kills them and clogs their arteries and causes obesity, you definitely would make sure that you could not get their hands on it, especially from food stamps. We all know it's junk food. We don't need anybody taxing us and telling us that this is garbage and you really shouldn't overeat on it. I occasionally have sweets. I'll occasionally have a chip or two or maybe a Cheeto on occasion, but it ain't part of my daily diet. But it sure is for the very, very poor. We all know this. We can look at their carts and see the sugary cereals and the food that's in them, the Cheetos, the Fritos, and the corn dogs and the pre-frozen pizzas. You can tell. And do they really care? Nah. if they did, they would put a stop to it because they can. They can actually make it. See, they're the ones that changed the law because a long time ago you couldn't buy those kind of things with food stamps. Heck, now you can even buy Easter baskets as long as they have candy in them. The big sin, candy. So you can actually buy an Easter basket with food stamps with candy as long as it has candy. Now you can't get it if it has toys, but you can definitely get it if it's candy in it. Now isn't that amazing? The very thing that they tax you on that's considered a sin, they let them have it. They don't care. And anybody who thinks they do, I don't know what to say to you. You're beyond any kind of help that I can think of. Because it just takes common sense to know. If they are taxing you on something because they claim it is bad for you, and they call it a sin tax, and they claim it's unhealthy for you and not good for you, and turn around and give it to the poorest of poor to eat, when they have the control in their hand to put a stop from that person from eating it, they might not be able to stop the man who can walk into the store and buy it, but they definitely can stop the man who can't afford to buy it and depends on the government to buy it. But they don't care. You've just been deceived is all. Well, I hope you found this informative, and I do think it's kind of funny though they call it a sin tax. Oh, so much for government staying out of God and religion, right? Let's just name it a sin. That's a good one. I'm sorry, folks, but that one really got me. I had to chuckle at that one I saw. I said, a sin tax? Oh, wow, our government now tells us we're sinning. We're going to tax you for it. But oh, well. But don't be deceived. Don't be conned. Don't be tricked into thinking that they actually care. Because if they really care, the children, the poorest in our country that need the help, we could easily make sure they got the best and healthiest food. Guaranteed, if they weren't allowed to buy the junk food. You know, sometimes, you may feel sorry for them. You may feel bad because poor Johnny can't have any candy. But if poor Johnny's going to grow up obese with clogged arteries and die of a heart attack, real love stops it. Real care stops it. And I don't think they have any. Well, like I said, hope you enjoyed this. Hope you find this informative. And may you have a very, very blessed day. And don't worry about eating the foods that they call sins. The last time I checked, I don't think it's a sin, okay? Bye.